Hello, I'm John Kicklighter, Global Head of Content at StoneX, here with a short and hopefully useful video on the VIX Volatility Index. Now, you probably heard of this, and it's often a reference in my own analysis because it is a popular measure of fear, and we often call it the fear index. Now, this is obviously more focused on when markets are pulling back or at the risk of falling. But I think that this measure is certainly evolved in the past 10 years and may be something of a broken measure if we hold it in the strictest sense of being a predictive indicator. Now, how do you derive something like the VIX? It comes from the S&P 500 from its derivatives and options, and it is used to evaluate the implied measure of volatility out of that options pricing model. Now, implied volatility simply means the expectation of uncertainty. That is the principal measure in derivatives that we don't know and can be priced immediately in the market. So the higher the cost of that volatility, that means it's an expectation of a greater uncertainty. And often, as you can see here, there's an expectation that as the S&P 500 goes down, the volatility or the VIX measure goes up. Now that traditionally does hold and hold very well. However, over the years, we've seen that there's been a significant change in the way that this market operates, and its predictive power is something to be questioned. And in part, that's because the VIX volatility index and its derivatives and all the measures that it comes from, the options on the underlying, are becoming products in and of themselves. People are trading those markets very aggressively, and that distorts its signal power. I don't use the VIX volatility index as a preemptive indicator. I use it more as a confirmation tool. But it's very important to still utilize something like this that gives us a perspective on risk and whether it can persist. And it can also give us a sense, and I think this is where it's most valuable, that when you have huge spikes that we see in this chart here, that we can say that it's an extreme and that conditions are more likely to moderate. Hopefully this was useful. Good luck trading out there.